All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Michael Dean. You're watching the Prince Podcast. And before we continue, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button down below and check us out on Patreon. Patreon.com/podcastjuice. All right, with that, let's work it like a job. Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Prince Podcast here on Podcast Juice. My name is Michael Dean. Woo-hoo. Lord, we got a good show here today. Joining me today, let me roll out the red carpet for the one and the only Elisa Fiorillo. How are you?
Ooh. Well, I should have worked on that name with you. So it's Elisa. It's actually, well, it's funny because it's always been Elisa Fiorillo, but it is the hardest name on the planet to say.
Okay.
So then I got married, and then my last name was Dease. And when I joined back with Prince, he insisted on calling me Dease because that's my married name, and he wanted to pay respect to my husband. And I kept saying, no. People know me as Elisa Fiorillo, like when I worked with you back in the day. And he's like, you're a married woman. Your name is Dease. Wow. So that's how you say it.
Dease. I stand corrected. That's what I do. I need correction, so I appreciate that. Also,
it's a difficult name, yeah.
Also, you hear another voice here, Nyle Girgis. Sir, how are you?
Yes, sir. I'm right here. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for joining me today. And why are they here? Of course, they're here because I'd have them here regardless. Definitely know Elisa. But we are here to talk about a new project that they have coming out that I believe is dropping this Christmas here, 2017. It is called I Wish You Heaven and is a compilation of Prince songs done by some artists that hopefully we can talk to today. But don't let me be the one to say what this is. Nyle, I want to start with you, man. Can you tell us about this project?
Hey, man. How you doing? And I'm happy to be here. The project, let me give you a little background real quick on Elisa and I.
Yeah.
So I've known Elisa for almost 30 years now. I played drums for her, and it was another Prince connection. So we're kind of bonded by this whole Prince thing. And so when I played, she was on Chrysalis Records, and she put out her second album called I Am. Mm-hmm. And Prince co-produced and co-wrote most of the record. And when Elisa was putting together a band, she ended up finding me as a drummer. And we did Arsenio Hall, and Prince did the arrangement for us on Arsenio Hall, and a bunch of other cool things. We did Live at the Apollo, and then me and a buddy of mine did the remix for Ooh This I Need. So we go way back, Elisa and I, and we go way back in terms of our, Prince being the kind of the middle guy there, and just kind of being the kind of the bond there. But so tell you about the project. I had this idea prior to Prince passing. I always wanted to I love cover songs. I love when people make music their own, or make a song that somebody else wrote, make it their own. I love that. And so I wanted to do that prior to his passing, and I started brainstorming and putting a list together. And I never followed up on it. Too many things going on in life. And then, of course, after he passed away, it seemed totally appropriate at that point. And I contacted Elisa. Well, we're always in contact, but I called Elisa and I said, Lisa, I'm thinking we should do this, and we should do some tracks, and then we should start bringing in other people. I have a lot of really talented friends, and you've got talented friends. So let's see see who's down and wants to contribute a track. And that's what happened. And Elisa said, it's a great idea. Let's do it. And we just embarked on the journey.
Wow. Can you tell us, before I go to Elisa, how many songs are on this, some of the songs that are on here? Because, again, a lot of fans are going to want to know, oh, they're just going to do Purple Rain over? Or what songs are, what kind of songs are we talking about?
We got 15 versions of Purple Rain.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord.
Done in every genre possible. No. Classical to reggae to funk.
Yeah, right.
No, we didn't do that. As a matter of fact, Purple Rain is not even on this on this CD or CD. Here I go. On the YouTube. It's a YouTube. We should state that also, is that this is going to be available on YouTube only for right now.
Okay.
And if it does appear anywhere else, it'll be like Spotify. So just streaming services where you can listen for free. As far as the compilation, we have 15 tracks. A 16th might be added as a bonus track because one of the artists is having a little trouble getting it to me. But we have 15 tracks, and they're all done and they're all mastered. And the video, there'll be like a little simple video to go along with each track.
Oh wow.
There's several independent artists, but then there's people like Elisa doing Sometimes It Snows in April. There's Cassandra O'Neill from NPG doing an incredible version of Something in the Water Does Not Compute. And then there's some names you don't know. And then, of course, there's one of the other guests that's coming on that did unbelievable version of Nothing Compares to You with his wife, like super passionate version, a lot of power and passion in it. So, 15 official tracks.
Wow. And you said, so this is going to be on YouTube. So are these going to be videos, or is it just you can listen to the songs? I'm just curious.
Everything on YouTube is a video, right? But rather than it being just a thumbnail of a picture that you're staring at the whole time, it is, there's a little moving graphic. I'll let that be a surprise, but
okay.
There's a little animation going and a little simple graphic that sort of kind of keeps it interesting and cool. And as far as the track, the variation in tracks that ended up on here, so we have several B-sides, Prince B-sides, like 17 Days, and what other B-sides do we have on here? That's the only one that pops up.
9311.
Well, 777 was a time track, right? So, there's stuff that Prince wrote. We have
there's a cover in 777 9311 on here?
Yeah, there's and it's real cool. It's done by a really talented friend of mine, and we have the guest trumpeter at the end of it, because it goes into like a Latin jazz thing at the end, which is super, super hot. And the guest trumpet player is Arturo Sandoval, who he's like a 7-time Grammy winner, and that's the artist's boss. The artist plays percussion for him when Arturo tours, and he asked him to do it. And that's what's another beautiful thing, is a guy like Arturo Sandoval, who was Dizzy Gillespie's protege at one time. And
yeah,
this guy's
do you know that Dizzy Gillespie actually got him out of Cuba?
Yeah,
come to America to get him work and get him moving in his career. I found that out yesterday from my big band leader, Bruce. I was
he has a crazy. They made a movie about it with Andy Garcia, but so Arturo agreed to play on this thing, and I was going to say that's the beauty and the scope of Prince's influence. Mm-hmm. I mean, a guy like Arturo probably would not have agreed if it was, a Backstreet Boys tribute. You know what I'm saying? So, you get, it's once you mention Prince to people and say, hey, we want to pay our respects to Prince in this particular way. It's like, you're almost never going to get a no. That's the beauty of it.
All right. Elisa.
Yes.
You are a part of the new power generation. You're solidified in that. And again, I first got wind of you or knew about you when Graffiti Bridge came out. And
boy,
Love Machine.
Love Machine.
Yeah.
You did that in harmony.
And I was awesome. Like, who is this? I was like, oh, okay. Looked at
my grandmom didn't like that song.
I would imagine. But I did. I was a young man. I was like, oh, okay. But so you've been around Prince for a very long time, and first question I got to ask this. A lot of people will ask this. You have worked with Prince. You were here. You were there. Why are you doing this project? And I'm not. And let me say that. I'm going to be clear. I'm not saying that in the sense of like you shouldn't be doing this type of thing. But I'm just asking, like, as a band member, right? We want to hear your perspective.
First thing that pops in my head is I love him. I loved him as a brother, as a friend, as a teacher, and one of the things he relished in was teaching. And he loved new artists. He loved discovering new artists on YouTube. He loved just turning us all on to new talent. And, I witnessed firsthand with him where he would take somebody else's song, like some random person's song, and he'd have us do it. There was a song, I can't remember the name of it, but he taught Livin' Shelby and I all the lyrics and all the harmonies, and we would perform it. And it was this random guy's song that we'd never even heard of. Wow. And it was something that he loved hearing. He wanted to do a different version of it himself. So I thought, wow, how cool is that? He would take other people's songs and try to beat them at their own version. You know what I mean? Wow. He didn't say that he did that often, but he really did. He did do covers.
He did a lot of covers.
Yeah.
A lot of covers.
Let me ask you something. You just said something. I just want to go back because this is interesting. You said that Prince would be on YouTube.
Oh, all the
looking
time.
For other artists. Describe to us that type of...
Once he got a laptop, he'd be up in his office just searching. I mean, that's how he found Liv Warfield. Mm-hmm. That's how he kind of found out about me, because I had lost touch with him for 20 years. And I had a YouTube clip up trying to get work here in Vegas. And I had come up with this fake management name. And it was actually my home phone number. And I was like, what crazy person is going to call me and start harassing me? And the only person that ever called was Prince. I was like, boy, I'm glad I put that YouTube video up, but that's how he got back in touch with me.
That's cool.
And so why do I want to do it? Because, as soon as Prince passed, I had mixed feelings about people going out and touring right away. I had mixed feelings about it, about even going to the Paisley big celebration, because we had done our own. I thought it was the final goodbye at the what was this place called that you came to, Nyle, in Minnesota? In October.
Well, it was
the big
tribute
concert.
Stadium, the big tribute show.
So we had done it. I mean, everybody was crying on stage. Stevie Wonder was there. I mean, it was just beautiful. And so that was like my goodbye. I got to sing Sometimes It Snows in April in this huge venue with everybody's lighters and everybody crying. And it was like it was a nice way to say goodbye. And I kind of was done being sad about it. So, at first I was like, well, I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea, because this is not about making money. This is not about our egos. This is not about self-promotion. I'm the last person that wants to go on tour and do anything. I love being home. I love doing my big band jazz stuff here. I feel bad that I can't, go on tour and, share my love of jazz. But, right now I've got my father living with me. I'm taking care of him, and I have my daughter and I have my husband. And, touring life, it gets a little old. You just kind of I just want to be mom and just do what I love. And that's where I'm at, So this was my way of saying, hey, I can't get out there and start touring and doing his music live for y'all, but this is a gift. I see it every day on Facebook, people posting pictures telling how much they miss him, how much they love him, how much he's affected their lives. And I look at the fans and I just say, hey, here's a gift for you, just to keep his music alive. Share it with your children. Make your kids know who Prince was, because that's what he would want. So that's my biggest reason for doing it.
Amen.
And Nyle, let me ask you. Obviously, you've had opportunities to work with Prince and through Elisa and things of that nature. You as a musician, right? Like, what did Prince mean to you, and what did he inspire you in things?
Wow. Well, first of all, I could speak for hours on that topic. I've been a fan since there was a good friend of mine that has since passed away about 10 years ago. But when we were in high school, he knew I was a drummer, and he knew I was a fan of all these different drummers and all this, a lot of rock, a lot of new wave stuff that was on the radio. And he said, hey, come here and check this out, since you're, knowing that I was a drummer. And he put on Tambourine. Okay. So from Around the World in a Day. And as soon as I heard that opening drum fill, I literally, my jaw was on the floor because it was just so funky. You know, it just like, it literally changed the way I thought about drumming. And to this day, that song literally is like alien funk. You know, it sounds like somebody dropped out of outer space and made funky music. It's so otherworldly, and it's just a trip. It's like it's a James, obviously, you know, his James Brown influences is in a track like that, but then he takes it somewhere else. And that was the most incredible thing about Prince is you could hear all his influences, but they went inside of him and got flipped and turned around, and he put his own twist on all of his influences. So he's influenced me, I would have to say, more than any other artist, in terms of him being a live performer, in terms of his production choices, his musicianship. I honestly think, and I'm a fan of all the greats, but I honestly think if there was one artist that really had it all going on in terms of, like I said, the performance, the production, the songwriting, I'm probably missing a few things, the fashion sense. If you put it all together, I don't think it'd be really hard. You'd be really hard pressed to find somebody who did it better than him. So, what does he mean to me? He's in my top three, if not number one. He's number one. Let me just say that, and I'm not just saying it because we're on this Prince podcast. He's my number one guy in terms of music. So that'll tell you.
When you first met him, and more specifically, if you had an opportunity to play with or for him, was there a level of intimidation, or do you feel like you was ready to be? You know, because I can imagine. How old were you when you heard Tambourine?
Tambourine. I was, gosh, I don't know. I was in late.
Okay.
I think I was in high school, but I was probably 16.
We getting old, Nyle.
What's that? Yeah.
We're getting old. I can't even.
Yeah, we're dating ourselves here, but I don't care. Shoot.
No, hey, I'm in the same boat. It's fine. But I'm so I can understand like what that song meant at that time. Prince he was on fire at that point. So his level he was on the upper echelon. So you becoming older, studying music, having that as a bar. Tell me about that first experience, man, when you got in front of him.
Well, the thing is, let me tell you this. I actually did not get in front of him. That was the crazy thing. So when I first started working with Elisa, it was only maybe a few years after I'd heard Tambourine, that experience I just talked about. And then I got on as Elisa's drummer, and he did the arrangements for us that we performed on some of the shows.
He sent a cassette tape. He said, have your band top this. And I was like, okay. So
it was a challenge. It was a challenge because he didn't think
if we could do it.
Wow.
Yeah, he didn't think Elisa was, because Elisa told Prince, hey, I put a band together. And I think in the back of his mind, he's like, oh, this little white girl put together a band to play. There's no way that they're competent or funky or. So he sent a 3-song medley that we were to perform on the original Arsenio Hall show when he was first on. And so we all went home with our cassettes and learned it. And then we went to rehearsal, practiced it. And then, we were all nervous because we were massive Prince fans. And we recorded live in the rehearsal room us playing that 3-song medley. And then it was sent to him. So I never got to meet him, but obviously the nerves were there because I was being tested, really.
Was it Michael Bland was playing the drums on that tape too?
Yeah, and Michael Bland is one of my drumming. He's one of my drumming heroes too, right? So he's of all the Prince drummers, he's definitely number one in my book. Even though he had a ton of great drummers, including the late John Blackwell, who was just a monster on drums, right? Mm-hmm. That was a test, and we passed the test. So that was a big deal for me. And I was only, I think, 19, coming on 20, I think. Mm-hmm. And it was huge.
Do you still have that tape?
We still got, I still have. I transferred it I transferred off a cassette to digital. So I have the rehearsals. I don't even know if Elisa knows I have them, but I do.
Oh my God, I have to hear that.
Yeah, man. It's great.
So you got the tape, the Prince sent you a tape. I know you was like, when you heard it though, you were like, oh boy, okay, we got this, or like, oh, okay.
No, we knew we had it. We were competent, all of us, including one of the guys that contributed track, a guy named, I got to give him a shout out because he started with us too, Pocket Honore. He did Bambi on the compilation album. By the way, he did like a real heavy metal version of it. But yeah, Pocket was in the band, and we all knew that we could, when we got that cassette, well, we knew we were good. And then when we got that cassette, it wasn't like it wasn't scary. It wasn't something we couldn't do. We just all went home, learned it, and then we came to rehearsal and started knocking it out. And so you can see it on YouTube. You can go and look up Elisa Fiorillo and put in, I think the song was On the Way Up. That's one of them. And then we did Ooh, This I Need and Love's No Fun. So we did 3 songs, all of which Prince co-wrote, right, Elisa?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, not even
actually,
Love's No Fun.
Love's No Fun, he wrote, and he also wrote Ooh, This I Need. And it was kind of cool. On Arsenio, we were only supposed to do, it was either 2 songs and 2 songs, no interview, or 1 song and an interview. And we opted out for the 2 songs because Prince said, just do the 2 songs, show them what you do. Yeah. I was like, okay. So we ended up choreographing it. So we ended up on Arsenio's couch, like at the end of the song. Yeah, and he ended up coming over and talking to us anyway, which was kind of cool because I got 2 songs and an interview. So I don't know what Prince did, but it worked out really good.
Yeah, I think he dug it enough. But yeah, what an experience just to get that nod. I mean, Elisa was already working with him, so she had already gotten, quote unquote, like his approval. Mm-hmm. But for us as young musicians in that game of like R&B and funk and all that stuff, to get that was getting the nod from him. Like, okay,
you did finally get to meet him at the Sayers Club in L.A. Yeah, I brought Nyle to one of the shows, and then afterwards we did an after show at the Sayers Club, and Prince was standing right there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to introduce Nyle because he's never met him. He's been my drummer forever. He produced the Labor of Love album that I did when I was pregnant, that Prince loved, Bun in the Oven, one of the songs on it. So I said to Prince, I'm like, hey, my friend Nyle, Bun in the Oven, that song you liked, he's right here. He'd like to meet you. So Nyle walked over, and you can tell him what he said to you and what you said.
That was October 2013, right? So just a couple of years before he passed, 3 years. I walked over to him, and Elisa had given me like an introduction where he, at least knew that I had done the Arsenio Hall thing and the jazz album. So I think he was kind of like, oh, okay, finally meeting Nyle, and, but for me, it was it was beyond, I'm telling you, to this day, that's the greatest person I've met, and I told him, well, he had said like nice work to me and stuff regarding the jazz album that we did. And I said, thank you. And then I said, if you ever have a chance to talk about God, if you ever have time to talk about God, I'd love to talk about that. And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, we'll make time. And I thought that was just so beautiful because that's one of my favorite topics is spirituality. And I know that's one of his favorite topics. We never got to talk. We never got to have that meeting, but man, just to have met him and to exchange that energy, that he met me and I met him, that was literally a beautiful thing.
Wow, I can imagine. Awesome. Listen, we got another special guest popping up in here. We want to welcome Cassandra O'Neill to the show. How are you?
Hello.
Listen, let me say this right off the bat. I listened to Something in the Water Does Not Compute.
Yes.
Woo!
You like it?
I love it. I was like, who's singing? I didn't know who was singing at first, and I was like, who is this? I was like, okay, yeah, yes, sister, you did your thing on that one. I love it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank Elisa for this. As I have spoken about this a couple of times, I didn't know what I wanted to do when she asked about this, and I said, what about something in the water? And it worked out. You know, it was a little bit of a ponder, since the key was a little bit different for a woman, and the lyrics, and I kind of did a little flip in there. I don't know if you noticed it. I kind of changed the pronouns around, and it was actually a double flip, because I said, must be something in the water you drink. It's been the same with every boy I've had. Must be something in the water you drink. Why else would a woman, me, want to treat a man so bad? So it's kind of an interesting little flip in there somewhere. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, we could do a whole show. I said this, and I'm going to, with Elisa. Both of you guys have extensive things to talk about. Cassandra, you have extensive list of people you've worked with and things that you've done, which I have to salute as well. But just to stay on topic of this, like, how did you meet Prince, and what brought you into the Prince world?
Well, outside of being a fan, I was playing for Sheila E. And I was in her band. Well, it was a collective called Co-Ed, which was Sheila, Kat Dyson, guitar player, also of the MPG, Rhonda Smith, also the MPG bassist, and myself. And we were in LA. We had just gotten off tour, and Prince had asked if we could accompany him to the Montreux Jazz Festival. In proper Prince fashion, he'll ask you if you're available without telling you a date. So knowing that 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10, you're not going to say, no, I'm not available. But we went into the studio, into center staging, and rehearsed 3 of his songs, put them on CD, and he heard it. And so, again, still no date. And Rhonda whispered in my ear something like, hey, Cassie, somebody's watching you. And I said, who's watching me? She said, Prince, girl, he likes your playing. And so he had asked who was playing keys on the recording, and they said it was me. And then we finally got a date, which was July 16th. And I couldn't do that date because my mother's birthday was that day, her 70th birthday. And so for me, family trumps everything. And, you know, even when I brought it to my mom was like, no, you go work. This is a great opportunity. You go work. You know, it's always go work. But it was her 70th, and she had been in and out of the hospital. And I felt in my spirit that I needed to be there. And so I told Sheila, I said, I can't do this date. And so, you know, he was very not happy. But he said, if I don't have Cassie, I don't want none of y'all. So he ended up going with a different unit. Wow. So later on that year in October, I got a call from his people, and they asked me to come to Paisley. And I came to Paisley on a Friday, met Prince on a Saturday. That was pretty much the beginning of the beginning. And I was there for 7 years.
Take me back to that. When they reach back out to you and you go to Paisley Park, had you been there before?
No, and actually I had met Prince already because I had did the NAACP awards, that Vanguard award performance. That was me. I had short hair, and I was playing in Sheila's band, and I had met him then, but that was pretty much the extent of it. You know, we went to his house that night and we partied or whatever, but that was it. So when I got the call, I was just like, oh my God. It was kind of like a delayed reaction kind of thing because, I was and still am and will always be the ultimate Prince fan. So it was just like, oh my gosh, really? So I had to pinch myself a couple of times. And when I got to Paisley, I had to get another wardrobe because, as you know, our dear purple one did not like jeans and casual wear. So I had to go to the Mall of America and purchase a whole new wardrobe. So, yeah.
Get it right.
Yeah. Had to get some boots with heels and nice, casual, casual dressy wear that you could wear to rehearsal. And he pretty much changed the way that I dressed because I came off of Macy Gray, who was, Chuck Taylors and jeans. So, it was a whole switcheroony for me, walking around in pumps all the time or some type of stiletto. And, to this, thank God for Prince, because now I can run in stilettos thanks to this guy, having to perform all the time. So, yeah, so that was my experience. And I had a half of a rehearsal when I did my first gig. And Elisa was there, and I nearly flipped out when I met her, and she looked at me like I was nuts because I was like, oh my God, oh, Elisa, all the way up, right? And she's like, yeah.
Talk to me.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
So Lisa, you tell us about that, what it was like, because I could have sworn you thought I was nuts, really.
Yeah, I thought you were a little nuts.
Okay. Well, at least thank God for honesty.
No, I was like, I never thought anybody knew who I was. Honestly, I was never affected by the old, pop star thing. To this day, I'm in shock when people say, I know your hit song. And I'm like, you remember that? Like, so I was just like, wow, you know me? Like, I really didn't, it didn't even faze me. I didn't think
I remember her Apollo performance. Remember, I was singing the song that you sang.
She's like a dictionary. She's like an encyclopedia for chords, changes, lyrics, melody. This woman is a monster. She's amazing.
Let me ask you guys this. So you guys in the band, y'all was in, y'all, I'm going to say you are a part of the new power generation. You work with Prince.
Right.
What was it like? I want to hear you guys' perspective of the work ethic in terms of the rehearsals and sort of the day-to-day of that, and also did that influence you in your other musical endeavors going forward?
I would say that the day-to-day was pretty much this. You wake up, you do what you do before rehearsal. Rehearsal started usually at around 1 or 2. And we, the MD, whoever that was at the time, got the list from Prince, either calling you in your room or emailing you. And the singers, Shelby, Liv, and Elisa would go off on their own and do their thing. And then the band would go into the soundstage and do our thing. And then the singers would meet up with us at about, say 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And we'd come together and kind of compare notes and, make sure that our structures are the same and, all of that. And then we would rehearse till about 6:30 or so. And then we would go eat for an hour. And then Prince would come, when we come back, Prince would come in and do his thing up until he didn't want to do his thing anymore. So that was pretty much it. And whoever the MD was pretty much didn't have any power when Prince came in. The MD position was pretty much like the taskmaster of the day. Prince was his own musical director. You know what I'm saying? When I was the musical director, it wasn't creativity that he wanted from me. It was order. It was who knew all the parts, who could sing, if the singers needed anything, who knew how the structure went. When he hired the MPG horns, I worked very closely with Phil Lassiter, making sure that the chords and the whatever it was that Phil was coming up with or whatever he wrote, worked with what the band was playing, was working with what the singers were doing. It all worked out. Phil is a man, he's a genius. and such a maestro with those horn arrangements. And, you know, it was a nice, big, happy family. It was, you know, we played together.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and,
we played music together, and we played together, you know.
He had a lot of fun. He had so much fun at rehearsals.
He did.
From Morris putting on that hat, that church lady hat, and going organ. I'll never forget that. He was on the floor laughing. To when the horns joined us, just when we did Extra Lovable, just how exciting that was when they came together with the band and played those parts. I cherish all those memories.
Yeah, there were times where I would look back. I remember, being in the band in the rhythm. We're behind the horn players, and I just remember kind of taking a step back and looking at the whole band. And it was like, wow, this is such a freaking dope visual. Like, people have a choice of who they want to key in on. It could be Prince. It could be the horn players. It could be the singers. It could be the rhythm section. It could be, you know, Damaris or whoever the muse was at the time. And all of it was done at such a professional level. You know what I'm saying? And it was, who does that? Like, who does that in rehearsal, where you got your pick of who you want to choose to vibe off of? And we vibed off of each other. And it was just like, I'm like, this is a band. Like, this right here is a freaking band. Like, for the first time, I'm in a band, like an all-star. like you can't say it any other way. Yeah.
Wow. What was it like? So when you would do the shows, and then, of course, the after shows. How was the after shows for you guys?
I was tired.
Oh, man. I looked at the after shows as like, go ahead, Lisa.
I said I was tired all the time, because after a show, when you sing the high parts, you know, you need to rest. I'm sorry. That's just me. I don't have like vocal cords that are like, you know, huge rubber bands or anything. So my thing is I need to sleep to keep my high voice, you know, intact. And that was not going to happen in this camp. And I figured it out early on. So I'd sleep as much as I could in the day. I'd take little cat naps at rehearsal. And then I knew it was coming. Afterwards, I had to get my Red Bull and just stay with it. And like many nights, I don't know how my feet held up, because my feet are very sensitive. I got sensitive feet. And if I never wear a pair of heels again, I will be so happy. But I would look at Shelby and Liv would just go for hours and hours and hours. They could sing as loud as possible for hours and never lose their voice. And I would be so protective of my voice, because I grew up in a family where my dad's a classical pianist. So he always said, that's your instrument, protect your instrument. You know, so right. I wasn't allowed to do cheerleading in high school, because that would be screaming and you'd hurt your voice. Right. So my thing was protect my instrument. And I had no time to protect and sleep. And that's the only thing I could do to protect it. Yeah. So, but it was fun. We had some great nights till 6 a.m.
I know that's right.
Hey, could I jump in and ask a question?
Certainly.
Hey, Cassandra, I'm on the Nyle here.
Sure.
So I wanted to ask you a question. So, when did Prince show you parts? Did he get behind your keyboard setup and go, this is what I want you to play? Or did he have you just figure out the record on your own? What was that like?
Both. It depended on whether the song had keyboard parts or not. Some of the songs that he did were just kind of guitar driven. So he would come behind me and would give me a clav. And, or give me this and give me that. And cue it up for him and he'd play it, and then of course, there were songs that were keyboard driven that I already knew. So I would just play the parts that I knew. And then he would say, okay, well, yeah, this is live. So Cassie, you're playing that, also play this. You know what I'm saying? He would always add to the arrangement. We play songs faster. He would always say, you always want stuff brighter live, to add to the hype of it, because 9 times out of 10, if you play it at the same tempo, it's going to seem slow, So, always put a little bit of a, kind of like a little splash of hot sauce in there, just on the speed, not to make it faster, but just to make it a little bit more intense.
Gotcha.
Okay. How much?
Yeah, but go ahead.
I was gonna say, how much can you speak to us about, like, in terms of you being the musician on stage with Prince? Like, how much did you have to pay attention to him though, in his movements and things? Because it always seemed like he would have y'all at the drop of a dime. And bap, I don't know how much of that was rehearsed or how much was that you had to really keep your eyes on Prince at all times.
All of the time. And it didn't matter where he was on the stage. He would always say, all eyes on me. So when we would do like the cymbal stage, it was harder, especially for those of us that were in the circle, because
poor guy, man.
Yeah, he had it bad. He had it really bad, because if Prince was at the other end of the stage, there was no way for us to know what was going on, but he had his way. It was either verbal or visual. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't care whether you were in Africa and he was in China. You're going to play that part right, and you're going to know what it means. You're going to know where to go. And so, you use your peripheral vision. It's almost like being a blind person, knowing, where to go, because we've played it so many times. You anticipate when when you really, really need to look at him, and then there were times where he would just kind of blow a kiss, and that would mean kiss. There were things that we knew what it meant. Now, were there times where we made mistakes? Sure. Did he get mad? Of course. Was he unreasonable at times? Yes.
Listen, give me an example of an unreasonable Prince in terms of the band.
Thank God for honesty, right?
Okay. So there is a clip, and Elisa, I don't know if you remember this. I think we were in Paris. There is a audio clip of Prince going off on me because one of my keyboards malfunctioned. Now, all I do is play the things, okay? The keyboard was called a virus, okay? It was called a virus. It's an access virus is the name of the board. During Controversy the night before, it started to kind of do things on its own. It was just, I didn't touch it because I play in the beginning of Controversy. I play tambourine. And so I'm playing my tambourine, and all of a sudden this keyboard is going bzz, 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 and I'm not touching it. I'm not doing anything to it. I'm just playing my tambourine. So even when I turned the volume down, there were some issues with cables. I am not an electrician. I'm a musician. I'm a keyboard player. So I don't know I turned the volume down, and that was that. So the next day he's like, Cassandra, what happened during Controversy? I said, the virus started to malfunction. The what? I said, the virus. He said, what is that? I said, the keyboard is called the virus. So you have to answer questions without getting mad, because I know where this is going, but it was not my fault. Wow. But in his world, it did not matter. It was my keyboard and it was my fault. So you just have to kind of swallow it and eat it and grill it up and put ketchup on it. And, and he goes into this whole spiel about, you're my sister. Why would you put a virus on my stage? I said, Prince, it's a I'm just like, and I'm one of those people, I'm going to answer your questions as precisely as possible. So he's taking me through a song and dance in front of everybody. And I'm just like, look, man, what I really want to say is like, look, man, it happens. Crap happens. And like, let's move on. You know what I'm saying? And because that was one of the weird things about not having a monitor guy that was hard about this gig, because I've never done a gig where there was no monitor guy. And if you said the words monitor guy to him, you were automatically fired. So
Oh yeah, I remember that. Remember that?
Let me ask you,
So,
why is that? What would be the problem with having a monitor guy?
Because the house guy is supposed to do it all.
Right, but it wasn't the problem was a monitor. There was a problem with having a monitor guy. He had more control, he thought, by not having a monitor guy.
Okay.
But the thing of it is back in the day, you could get away with that because the technology wasn't as advanced. Nowadays, we're dealing with, slapback and everything, we're doing in-ears and all of that, back you have wedges. The front of the house guy did control it. Now we have in-ear monitors and everyone needs different things to get through. The singers need keys. The singers need themselves. Me as a keyboard player, I need keys and bass and kick and snare. You know what I'm saying? So giving everybody stereo left and right and having to mix ourselves, which was the direction that we got every day, give them stereo left and right. You guys mix yourselves. I'm like, mix ourselves? Who in the heck mixes themselves? I am mixing myself. Give me what I need. You know what I'm saying? Because I was on gigs, going from 98 Degrees to Pink to Macy Gray to Mary J. These were all upper echelon gigs where we used in-ear monitors. You know what I'm saying? So you get used to that sound. And if you get custom made molds and you got your mix just right, that's heaven. That's heaven on earth. And you play optimally, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to deal with, the wedges are too loud. I'm going to turn your wedge down. You don't have to deal with that. But in his world, you did, because we didn't really start using in-ear monitors until, when I was there, until later on. So, we were using wedges for a long period of time, for like 2 years, and it was hard. I've seen not monitor guys, but front of the house guys get fired because they did something quote unquote wrong, and all they're trying to do is help. And, remember that one gig, Elisa, we were on tour. You might not have been there, where he fired the entire crew.
I wasn't there that time. But I did.
Yeah, you weren't there.
I learned my lesson where I didn't get close to the sound man after a while because, you didn't want to say goodbye and be sad.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was he fired that whole crew when there were 3 weeks left in the tour. I'm like, who does that? But Prince does it. Prince did it, and you gotta love him for it, because you have memories. You have memories and stories that you can tell your grandchildren about this, so yeah. So that's now, that was an unreasonable moment for me.
Was he just maybe in one sense sort of set in his ways, like, this is how I've been doing it, it worked for me.
Yes.
I understand.
He was like an old woman. Yeah.
We're gonna say he's like old man. We're gonna put that on.
He was like an old lady. He was like an old lady that's, this is my way, and I'm not doing it nobody else's way. And he would say things like that. I mean, of course, he wouldn't say it that way, but it would be more like, this is my show, and I'm gonna do it my way. And if you don't like it, you can walk away. So yeah, he was very much set in his ways, but that was what he knew. It worked.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's why he stuck with it, because in his world, it worked for him.
Yep.
And when you're paying everybody has to do it your way. So, it's a little bit of a control thing, but when you have paid your dues like he has, when you have written songs like he has, you get, you pay the cost to be the boss, and that's his thing. And, and again, you have to love him for it at the end of the day, even before he died, I loved him for all of it, because it's like, yeah, man. Okay. And you asked a very interesting question about how it influences me in my other musical environments. I'm a perfectionist, and I'm happy to say I am a perfectionist because I am him. Because of what I've learned from him, because of what he instilled in me. I don't apologize for that. I am unapologetically a perfectionist and a professional because he instilled that in us. You do what you have to do to get the sound that you want. If it's your song, we gonna play it like we wrote it, the way you want it, and that's what I instill with anybody that plays with me. It's like, okay, this is how I want it, and I want y'all to play it like you wrote it. So yeah.
Well, I would say, I mean, I would imagine, that sort of regimen and that sort of direction, it reminds me a lot of, an old school, black household, hey, this is my house. You're going to follow my rules. If you don't follow the rules, you can go outside, and you create your own situation. When I hear things about Prince, I can see that sort of mindset where, hey, this is what has worked. This is my house. These are my rules. And you learn a certain type of discipline being in that type of environment. So then when you do go out on your own thing, you can't help but pull that discipline with you and, and attach it to things that you're doing moving forward. Because at the end of the day, like you said, you got to respect that it's drawn a line and this is the standard. We're going to have a standard. It ain't just nilly-nally. Well, everybody else doing it, but everybody else ain't cutting you a check. So you're going to do it this way or you got to go over here. So go ahead.
He was very old school. He was old school. That's how they did it back in the day. You didn't, back in the day when we were children, you did what you were told.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And it was the same thing with music. You did, whoever you were working for, you did it the way that they wanted you to. That's how James Brown did it. That's how Jimi Hendrix did it. That's how the Isley Brothers did it. That's how Michael Jackson did it. All of the greats had that same, that same mentality. Ike Turner, he was kind of a mean little thing, but that was the school that we all came from. These New Jack players and these New Jack singers that are kind of like, they leave all the creativity up to the musical director. That's fine, but you have to have some type of input. You know what I'm saying? That you have to. This is your show. So when people are listening to your show and to your music, they're listening to you. But nowadays it's the vision of somebody else because these younger folk are too lazy. They're too lazy to do it themselves, or they just don't know how. They put themselves in the company of people of like myself that do, and it's just like, give me something that's like, like, no, I don't know. I'm asking you, so it's one of them things where, it's old school, and old school teaching mixed with new school flavor to me is a nice little hodgepodge of
well, let me ask you about this
that I feel that needs to happen today.
Let me ask you then, jumping off, and we're coming again. This show is about I Wish You Heaven, so we are going to stay focused on that. But I want to just ask you guys this,
right?
Because it's very interesting. You're out working with other bands, other musicians, and you've been around Prince and pedigree of that type of nature. What is missing from the artists, and not necessarily, I want to speak to the musicians. What is there for the musicians of today so that us as the listener can feel that soul from them, feel that spirit in the music? They're not just playing to a click track or something. Like, is there something missing from your perspective that when you see a Prince show and how that show was put together and how he's playing and how the band is up on it versus what some of the newer
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, no, that's what you got the gist of it. Yeah. You got the gist of it. Go ahead.
Okay, I would say that independent discipline is what's missing. You have a lot of great younger players, and this is not everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to do every black person likes fried chicken kind of thing. I'm not going to do that because that's whack.
Oh, damn.
But I mean, but you know how that goes. Everybody wants to get all down on all the young players, and it's not all of them. It's not all of them. But what I think that the older generation can really teach these cats is independent discipline. Not the discipline that comes with being in the unit, but the discipline within yourself. You doing your due diligence as a player to learn it all. Not just what you're playing with or who's paying you at the moment, but you have to stretch out and listen to other things. You know, I grew up in church, and so me listening to Prince was my other things. Me listening to rock and heavy metal music was my other things, because the given in my household was gospel music, choir, gospel music, church music. So coming up, as I began to get my independence as a person, you know, I'm becoming a teenager and my parents letting me listen to what I wanted, I started listening to a whole bunch of other stuff. Fusion, world music, African music, reggae, all of that, because I never knew who was going to call me for a gig. My goal as a musician was to be able to play it all and not be able to fake it, but be able to authentically play it all. So I think that's what's missing, or what should be stressed, you know, more so than just, okay, if you want to play for, I don't know, Kirk Franklin, you have to learn Kirk Franklin's music. What's cool about Kirk Franklin is Kirk Franklin was inspired by a whole bunch of other people. Right. So what you might want to do is to go about learning who inspired him. Do your research. Yep. Get on the internet. Get on YouTube, and be like, oh, he liked Patrice Rushen. Looking For You was one of his biggest hits. So you might want to go back and not only learn his version of it, but learn her version of it. Learn her solo. You know, I had to learn Patrice's solo for Sexy Dancer, which was such an honor for me when I finally got a chance to meet her. You know, so you just never know, you know, and this is an ongoing, you know, what I say is an ongoing process that will be with you until, you know, you get put in the ground and you can't play no more.
Wow. All right.
You know, this is not something that stops once you reach a pinnacle.
And everybody knows, but I don't know if they've seen the behind the scenes Prince that we've had the chance to see. But, you know, this cat always watched himself afterwards. We would sit and watch our shows after shows.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Lisa.
That alone makes an artist better. If you know, it depends on, you know, there are artists out there that aren't that self-involved with what they do. They just do it, and, you know, they don't become it completely like Prince did. Prince was Prince all the time. It was never, there was never the guy that just sat back and had cocoa, and, you know, he was always constantly learning, thinking, listening. He had such an open, you know, ear for everything and every kind of music, and he was inspired by
reinventing.
And he
reinventing.
Even from his style to his live performance. I mean, the way he got so good was he watched himself all the time. You know, I remember back in the 90s when I was around him, and I flew over to Europe and I hung out, and I got to see him backstage in Ireland when, you know, I'm standing backstage with The Edge from U2, and after the show, I went back to his dressing room, and he's like, so what'd you think? And I'm like, oh my God, well, everybody tells you how good you are. And he's like, no, not people that I respect, you know. And I said, well, you were amazing. Oh my God, your pitch, you know, was on dead on. And, you know, but I'd sit and watch him watch himself back then. And that was like 90, 91, 92, you know, and then to join his band and be a totally different entity, you know, within the band. Now I'm a band member and not just an artist on the side. And seeing him still doing it after all those years, it's just, it was quite a lesson in how to be an artist 101. You know, not a lot of artists take that time and that energy to really cultivate themselves in that way. That's why there's only one Prince.
True. Let me ask you this, going off of that, did you watch yourself in those performances, and what did you think about your performances most of the time?
I didn't like watching myself. I was like, ew, I look so fat. Oh God, that's a bad angle, you know. So yeah, I was always very critical of myself, which is probably why I never really got into the being a star thing. I just wanted to sing. And so when I had that opportunity of him calling me after 20 years, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to get a gig in Vegas, and I can't because I just had a baby, and nobody hires not a person that ain't skinny in this town. And, he overlooked that. I mean, he wanted us all to be in shape. He wanted us to be healthy because he had us running around. One time he wanted us to wear roller skates on that cymbal stage. Yes. Remember that? Oh my God. I was my roller skating at the Izod Center in Jersey going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm roller skating. I'm going to fall off the stage. But then thank God he just had the twins doing it. But he wanted us in shape, but it wasn't like, he knew we were women, we weren't going to be, and he also wasn't real thrilled with having
and we were all shaped differently.
Right. We didn't have to have skin showing, which, he didn't believe in that. He wanted us to dress like queens. He wanted us to have respect for ourselves and be ladies, It was cool. That was a cool thing I remember.
All right. Let me also.
I have to say that I enjoyed watching.
Oh, you did?
I was saying I enjoyed watching myself. I enjoyed looking back at the shows because it allowed me to hear the full picture. When you're on stage, you don't get to do that because your mix is your mix, and you're also in the midst of all the crowd noise and all of that. And so what I liked was being able to hear back and how much we sounded like the record. That was the biggest joy for me. It's like, oh, wow. I remember being as a kid, as a 12-year-old hearing Jungle Love for the first time. And here I am on stage playing it with the person that wrote it. And I'm playing the do, 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 playing that. You know what I'm saying? And those are my sounds. And me and Morris, we did a lot. We worked very hard on our sound, on how to complement one another and, making sure we didn't play the same type of sounds, that our chords were nice and thick and full. So I liked hearing the final cut, at the end of the night. That was what kind of melted my butter. Yeah, I love it.
Can I ask a question? So did he tape every single performance and make you watch every single performance or just select ones?
Every single one.
Every single one. Wow.
Every single one. There are Pro Tool files of every single performance that we did.
Ton of stuff. Yeah, so there's
somewhere
a ton
out.
Of stuff in there. Yep.
Where? I don't know.
All right. Well, let's shift gears just a little bit here, and we're gonna bring in another special guest, and I'm gonna give you the whip so you can correct me if I get it wrong, Mr. Kevin Paige. Sir, are you there?
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm blessed. How are you?
Great.
Now, let us know which song you are doing on this compilation project.
Well, me and Bethany, it's Kevin and Bethany Paige. We are going on the Nothing Compares to You / Venus de Milo.
Ah, interesting. All right. Now, what did you choose? Did you guys choose these tracks to do?
Well,
I think we went back and forth with a few, but I think this one just kind of spoke to us.
Well, to be honest with you, we do a Prince tribute show that we put together. We do here in Memphis, and one of the highlights from the show was when Bethany sang "Nothing Compares to You," and I really felt like that had the best chance at becoming a duet, given the lyrical content. And for me, it's Prince songs and his whole catalog. They're not just songs, they're records, they're creation, they're production creations. So when you start thinking about reimagining one of those, it's, you don't cover When Doves Cry. When Doves Cry is a record to itself.
Its own thing, yeah.
If you reimagine it doesn't have a good shot at coming out very well. Right. So, but Nothing Compares to You. What's interesting about that song is that it first appeared on the Family record, and the way Prince had produced that, it was so odd the way the synthesizers were. You weren't sure really how it went, like what the chords were. If you're a musician, you know what I'm talking about. It was just really hard to discern. So then when Sinead O'Connor covered it, it was even more different than that. What I'm trying to say is it never had a real template that this is how Nothing Compares to You is supposed to sound. So that one, for me, had the best shot at reimagining it because there was no concrete.
So defined.
Right. Even chords. Everyone changes the chords. Prince doesn't do the same chords as the family, and the families aren't the same as Sinead O'Connor.
We were sitting here listening to it, trying to figure out a couple of them, going, "What is that?"
Right.
All right. Now it's a very
Y'all
interesting.
should have called me. I could have helped y'all.
I was gonna say it's very interesting that you picked that song because that song recently, Prince's version recently has surfaced through the bootlegs, and it's a very interesting take on it. So I'm gonna definitely listen to that, and I want to hear you guys' interpretation of that. Also, Venus del Milo, like that song or that piece of music is to me like. I just can't. Yeah, I have to think of the movie Cherry Moon, but it's such a special thing. How did you? What led you to do this one?
Well, it's got such a romance about it, as does the entire movie, the Under the Cherry Moon. And when I was trying to think of a good intro for Nothing Compares to You, that melody came to my mind as kind of setting the tone of something super. Not just romantic, but a sort of longing that melody had, that since we were doing a duet with Nothing Compares to You, it had a hurt and a sensitivity about it that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to put that on for the intro. And then when we got done with the recording most of it, I said, it has to be the outro too. So I put it at the end of the song too. And it really gives an optimism to the lyric that sounds like, oh, those two got back together.
Well said.
And it doesn't say it with words; it says it with a melody. So, which is really neat.
Wow. What did Prince mean to you, to both of you as musicians?
Well.
Oh, yeah, I'll let you go start.
Oh, my gosh. For me, I grew up with Stevie Wonder and Earth, Wind & Fire, which were my musical heroes. But as I was coming of age, they weren't really in vogue anymore. So when Prince came along, it just blew my mind for what was possible for production ideas. And to be honest, our whole circle of people around the Memphis area, including Morris Hayes, we all became so sprung on Prince and those productions that all anybody in this area wanted to do was be Prince in the music scene. And it really, it was like crack. We were all sprung. And as we all kind of ventured out to do our things professionally in music, you had to figure out a way to break yourself of wanting to be so much like Prince. There really was a what do you call it? Like a rehab for.
That's funny.
That's what he meant to me. And he inspired me to I was a drummer growing up, but when I got into Prince, I'm like, oh my gosh, he does everything. So I started learning keyboards. I started learning bass, started learning to play guitar, finally started singing. So I really wanted to be a one-man show like Prince, inspired by Prince and Stevie Wonder, of course. But so when I got a record deal, I like Prince, I said, oh, well, I got to produce my own record, which was ridiculous for me, not for Prince, but they ended up letting me do it. So that was so anything. I was always trying to pattern my life after Prince, to be honest.
Yeah. And, Kevin's more of the musician, obviously producer in the family. But, as a singer, I just go, wow, what pipes and was able to, he sang like you could sing high, you could sing low. As a singer, you just want to just kind of, like you said, mimic that. And yeah, but Michael Jackson, all those.
Oh God, I didn't say Michael Jackson.
Maurice White.
There really was no other artist but Michael and Prince for me in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all in that same sort of age group. Those two guys, out of the ballpark, the top tier. Yeah. But Prince, has that thing of doing it all himself. It seems so personable. His performances and the singing on the record, it just sounded like he was like bearing his soul for real or something. With something about Prince that we all identify. Go ahead.
Something no one ever talks about when I read articles or hear people talk about Prince. When I was trying to figure out, what he was playing on records or trying to mimic the productions, what he was a master at was musician talk, but inverting harmonies and stuff, making the bass note, the third and not just the root. I don't mean to get technical on music, but
yes.
Inversions.
Like, yes.
Where you're saying, what the hell is that chord he's playing? God, and it just would drive you crazy. And you're going, who thinks of that stuff? Nobody was thinking.
And he was a kid.
Right.
I mean,
and
He did.
Hey, can I jump in and say something? Hey, Kevin, this is Nyle, by the way.
Oh, hey, now.
Yeah, your version, again, like I complimented you the other day, the power and the passion in your version, everyone's going to really feel it. It's really a wonderful. And the Venus de Milo was genius how you put it in there. But the thing about Prince is he wasn't formally trained in music, right? So when he did those things, like put the third in the bass or did his really interesting chord changes and stuff, it's just what he felt was right. Kind of like a Brian Wilson or even a John Lennon. Like, these guys were not formally trained. So when they sat behind whatever instrument they were going to, piano or guitar or whatever, they were just going to, it was just going to be, is this where I want to go? You know, or is this where I want to take the song? Or, hey, this is interesting. This is unexpected. So Cassandra could probably speak to that, because I know Cassandra is a jazz studies student getting ready to graduate pretty soon, and you played for Prince. So I got a very specific question for you. From your observance of Prince either playing an instrument in front of you, like, well, your instrument, the keyboards, could you, I mean, it was just from the heart, right? Because there's no real foundation in quote unquote music theory, right?
Well, this is what it is. What you got was, like you said, was his version of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, how it came out is how it came out. And oftentimes when he would play certain things, there's a certain dissonance that comes along with it that you expect because you've heard it before. And it's just like, okay. And you learn to like it because it's him. It's so authentically him. Nobody would think to use those two chords on top of each other. Me being an accomplished piano player, it would just be like, dude, you breaking all the rules, but it's cool because it's you. You know what I'm saying? Well, like, there have been. Go ahead.
I was going to say, he had a psychedelic sensibility, right? And here, this is not to disparage Michael in any way, but that's one of the that's the biggest difference for me, even though I'm a Michael fan. Prince had a psychedelic sensibility, and he had so much psychedelic rock influence that I think he had more of a well to draw from. Michael was a genius at what he did, don't get me wrong. But Michael did not have a psychedelic sensibility. And I think that's where Prince, the dissonance and the like, he was a musical astronaut. You know what I mean?
I agree. It was the Frank Zappa in him. It was the Joni Mitchell in him. It was the Beatles that were in him. But think about all the three people that we just mentioned were influenced by so many other great people. Joni Mitchell, was influenced by Brian Wilson. Zappa was influenced by everybody. You know what I'm saying? So you got all of those influences put together in a bowl, and it's what you call Prince. And so as a player and as his band member, it allowed me to dabble in, because I'm a very clean player. When people hear me, they're like, oh my gosh, you play so intentional. Someone used that word, and I was like, wow, that's a good word for me. I am a very intentional player. And so when I got with Prince, he took that intentionalness of me, but allowed me to stretch it to where the dissonance is intentional. You hear that rub there? Yeah, that's exactly that kind of rub that I wanted.
I think Prince was like the perfect
so
sponge.
That's what he taught me, to be able to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no. I was going to say, he was the perfect sponge. He was able to take any sort of thing and give it his spin. All those people you mentioned, but he took. Not only did he take them musically, he took the visuals too, right? He would take the slide. He would take all of that, but he would give it his style, even hip hop. Okay, they're doing rap now. Let me learn that. I'm going to give it to you my way and show you a different way of doing it. When I look at all of his like great albums, when he just had just a stretch where he was just at the height of, you know, the influence into the culture. It was always during the time where the marketplace was also at the height, where there was so much creativity going on. You had to be at the tipping point, and he had a lot to draw from. You know, in the 80s, there was a lot of things going on that he could be, oh, they doing like that? Okay, I'm going to show you how I would do that. You know, I'm going to put my spin on it. They can't do it like me. Boom. And I think even like when I look at something like the Rainbow Children, to me, I could see where he was like, oh, okay, you know, R&B, they going in this direction. They trying to do that. Oh, okay. D'Angelo, let me show you how I would do it if I did that style, and I'm gonna flip it, you know, and put that Prince thing on it. And I always felt like all of his groundbreaking stuff was always sort of, in a sense, an answer to other things that were out there, but he did it his way. Even in his first albums, you could look at his first album and see he was a direct connection to some Stevie Wonder. Like, you could tell, like, okay, Stevie's hitting right now. Let me do my style. I'm going to do, you know, he's doing it his way. And New Wave is coming up. Oh, I'm going to do my style.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so I see all of it. He was always sort of doing his thing. And I dare say, like, that was the great thing. And sometimes when there wasn't too much popping in the culture, popular music, you could see that in Prince too. Because there was nothing for him to bounce off of except for himself. And he had already set the bar so high. So it was, well, I guess I'll just sort of do my own interpretation of the old Prince. But I just always felt like he was very much of a sponge.
Yeah, what it boiled down to for me is he wasn't afraid to try. Mm-hmm. No, even if it didn't sound right, he wasn't afraid to try it. Like, there were moments in his career, you know, when he, like you mentioned about the whole hip hop rap thing. When he tried to rap, it was kind of funny, but he tried. Right. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of funny. I'm not even going front. This was before, you know, of course, this was before I was, you know, a band member, and I was just a fan. And I'm like, all right, Prince, okay. All right. You know, and to me, somebody like him didn't have to do that. Right. But he did it. Mm-hmm. He tried.
Shoot, you know, he tried to make me do that on my album. Remember? Oh
yeah, he had you rapping, Elisa.
Oh Jesus! There goes a neighborhood.
Oh, that's funny. Hey, can I jump in real quick? Kevin?
Of course.
Kevin, you're being humble, and I just want you to mention that Kevin Paige had, when he was an artist on Chrysalis Records, he had some very well-known hit songs. Michael Dean, you might know him.
Cassie will know him. She'll know.
Drop your resume, sir. Tell us. Yeah, don't be modest.
I knew him too, Kevin, and I was a fan of what I was hearing on the radio. I haven't told you this yet, but I was a fan, and I still am. Oh. I love your hits.
Well, thank you. And I've always tell people, they go, "What's that song you had out?" I go, "Well, if you can't tell me what it's called, I guess it wasn't, no. Hit, so we'll move on from there." No.
Yeah, but they were hitting, man. They were hitting. Well, they were well written. They were well produced.
Well, give the listeners a couple songs, because, you know, we're in a Google era now, so let them they can look it up and they'll be, oh, okay. Well, give us a couple.
Well, the more popular one was called "Don't Shut Me Out," which was in 1989, around the fall of '89, and then in 1990 I had another single release called "Anything I Want." Yep. That didn't go quite as high as "Don't Shut Me Out," but it gave me the chance to go around the world and do that. But, you know, the thing I think about when I reflect on Prince and my situation is, for most artists, when we get the shot to go out there and make a record, you're 23 years old and you're really not ready to be an artist. For me, you really haven't seasoned. You know, when I was 40, I felt much more ready to be an artist, yet it's a young person's game. So when you see someone like Prince, who comes along at 20 and is making those kind of records, it's just so rare to be that ready.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Beyond his years, as they say. Beyond his years, like an old soul.
Correct.
Yeah.
I see your pictures here, Kevin. I see you. Okay. I see that.
Don't shut me out. Don't tell me that you know what love's about. I used to love that song.
Yeah, I see you, Kevin, boy. You had the long hair. Okay. Yeah.
He's a funky white boy.
Hey, and you make a great point, Kevin, about you were more ready at 40 to be an artist, but it's a young man's game. Yeah, it's really crazy how, because when you get older, you've actually lived a little.
Right.
And
Sure.
for all of us that are not Prince or Stevie Wonder, you have to live a little so you actually have something to write about and something to say.
Right.
More experience, even traumas and things like that in your life that will come out lyrically. You just got more to say, and you've probably learned a lot more about music and stuff. So it's kind of unfortunate because older artists and songwriters have lived more and have more to say. And I wish there was more opportunity.
Right.
Oh, trust me.
I wish there was a label. I wish there was a record label. Sorry to interrupt whoever was talking, but
No.
I wish there was a record label that was dedicated to, I hate to discriminate, but you have to be like 40 or over. You know what I mean? And call it like second wind records or something like that. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Second wind.
Got it.
Oh, boy.
You hit on
As long as it ain't break wind.
hilarious.
Yeah, no, I thought it. I didn't say it.
Well, that too. That goes with the territory. But or you know what's funny? Or a show like the Voice or American Idol or whatever thing, or along those lines, right? Of one of those competition shows. But people who've lived, people who've got their songs are deeper, generally more meaningful.
Well, that's if you
that would
look
be
back.
fascinating.
If you look back at I think we all sort of children of the '80s in some way. One thing I always look back when you look at those old videos and different things, it was a lot of grown folks who were the top artists. It wasn't dominated by kids, right? Which is totally different today. So you had, Lionel, there's a lot of people they were not kids. They was grown men and grown women singing those songs, and they were the stars. And those songs sort of represented everything you just said, the experiences. They understood how to make a song that would reach a person that would last. The Princes and the Michaels, those were the prodigies, exception to the rural cats who had the talent of the older dudes and could compete. But it totally got flipped, I think, as it became more about money and image, whereas just put the younger person who doesn't have that talent, like you said, doesn't have that experience, and they're not the prodigy, but they can get the producer or somebody to make the hit song, and it just becomes about the image. But then the songs start to lack because they don't have, as you said, that experience and the voice to speak that can touch a whole bunch of people. They don't have, you look at Marvin Gaye, right? He can write from an experienced place, and we gonna all feel it. Didn't matter if he was a 16-year-old or whatever. He was a grown man, but older people lead and can do things that we can all feel. So I think that's why we're missing right now that space. But to go back to your point about the record label, you know what I always say to the artists of today, no matter what their age, and particularly in older artists, well, you know what, the record company ain't gonna let you in the game. Like that's just they'll take your song and maybe put it in front of some child or something. But in terms of you singing it, you're just gonna have to use the tools that they got today to get it out there and get on the internet or whatever it is. But your music is gonna shine through to the people who want to hear real stuff. You just gotta get it out there.
Yeah, real music will never die.
Right.
And a lot of people are shying away from record labels and things like that because the internet has offered such a wonderful platform. Does it take hard work? Heck yeah.
Better believe
but
it.
At the end of the day, you reap the benefits of it. You don't have to share it with anybody unless you have a team or whatever and you divvy it up however you want. But does it take twice as long? Of course it does. But I'm starting to like the kind of grassroots approach because the public wants good music. They do. What they're getting on the radio is not what they necessarily want. It's what's being shoved in their faces, but it's not what they want. They want the real. They want the soul of what the Marvin Gayes and the Donny Hathaways and the ones that have come before. We have those artists such as Layla Hathaway, who is Donny Hathaway's daughter, who is amazing and is doing very well. So, it is possible. It's possible. You just have to.
It's crazy. It's crazy to me when you look at somebody like Prince, who put out 2010, put out phase 1 and phase 2, and none of that stuff played on the radio.
Nope.
And he'd look at us like, how come I can't get on the radio? And if he can't get on the radio, there's something majorly wrong with that picture.
Right. But Musicology gave him a few radio hits. I think that was the last. If you correct me, any of you guys correct me if I'm wrong. The last stuff that was able to get on the radio or chart in terms of like a hit single were off Musicology, or did he have a few after that?
No, that was it. I feel. I think that was it.
Call My Name did pretty well. Musicology itself, the song did really well, or pretty well, relatively speaking. But so
that frustrated him, though. I know it did.
Oh, see there, that's some good insight right there, Elisa, because I didn't know that he even cared about that at all.
It did. It frustrated him. I mean, he didn't understand why there wasn't that kind of support anymore. And it was kind of sad.
Well, I think he understood. Go ahead.
It was kind of sad for me, for people that weren't like, major Prince fans. When I would come home to Vegas and say, yeah, I tour with Prince, and people would say, wow, I didn't even know he toured anymore.
Oh, man.
Because a lot of
crazy.
I know, it was the saddest thing I ever heard come out of somebody's mouth. But honestly, we were doing a lot more touring over in Europe than even in the States. I mean, we did the LA thing, which was the 21 nights, which was pretty cool. But honestly, they didn't think Prince was doing anything anymore. Like the random people that weren't Prince fans, And part of that's because he wasn't on the radio. And it's sad how that whole machine works. It's really
machine.
Right.
That's a good word.
Can I add something? This is Kevin.
Kevin, go ahead.
Does an artist like Prince, you guys knew him, so do they really take in the fickleness of, I mean, radio for any artist has its brief moment in time when it's really applicable to them, but to be a legend like him and Elvis, how you go around the world and sell out all those concerts like y'all did, that's the proof of the pudding that you're a legend. So radio, to me, I wish somebody could have put it in his mind that you do realize that doesn't matter. The guy that's got a number one song today probably can't sell out the bathroom tomorrow. So
that's good.
That's cute.
So was he not aware that, I'm an Elvis. Elvis couldn't give away a record, but could sell out stadiums everywhere when he was.
He was aware, but I think that we're talking about Prince here. We're talking about, and of course, this is just my opinion. He had the biggest ego. You know what I'm saying? So I think to him, his whole thing was, look at what I've done. Look at what I've done in the past. I've given you good music. Why are you not supporting me back? You know what I'm saying? Not understanding that the industry, well, no, he understood it. He knew the industry had changed. But he again, he's old school.
Yeah,
Back
he was like a little old man in that way.
Yeah, people paid homage to the ones that came before. And they made way. The heavens opened up. You know what I'm saying? For people like Count Basie and, on the jazz side of, and Duke Ellington and people like that, they made way. When they came around, it was like, back the heck up. Nowadays, with Prince, it just seemed like that wasn't the case. Not over in America, it wasn't. In Europe, that's why we spent so much time over there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? American listeners are very fickle. They are. They know that they're spoiled, and they know that they have their pick. And the record companies, the way that they function now with no A&R whatsoever, they pick the smallest little chick with the blonde hair and, put her in the studio with auto-tune and get the hottest producer, throw a couple of grand his way and say, here, that's that. It's become a mill, you know what I'm saying? With no substance at all, in some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases. So I think he was aware, and I think it frustrated him to a point. And I think, honestly, if he had really stayed with it, he could have created his own. People did make way for him. The older cats that were still in the industry, that were in radio, they made way. Trust me, they would have done it. they would have done it. But I think he was just so to the point where it's like, I'm 50 something years old. I've been in this thing since I was 19. Hear me, see me. What? You know what I'm saying? Like, help me out. You know, I've done a lot for y'all, you know, so yeah. And it's unfortunate that it had to, you know, it ended the way that it did and when it did, because Hit and Run were two great records. I mean, which if he would have put some muscle behind them, that would have been a heck of a tour. So
that would have been so much fun.
Now, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Elisa has an interesting little story. I don't hope I don't put you on the spot here, but you had a conversation with Prince a few years before he passed, where wasn't he saying that he was going to retire, and the whole thing about the cookies?
He called me up because I was sending him some songs that I had written, and just to give you just a little insight to the kind of man that he was. I think in the back of his mind, he knew that he wasn't going to tour and have the horns and everybody. And I think he felt bad that, you know, I wasn't going to be included as of, 2014, which was our last phone conversation. And so he was kind of encouraging me to, write songs, and I needed to write songs for what's that girl with the ponytail? What's her name?
Grande?
Yes, Ariana.
Yeah, Ariana Grande. Because he was saying the songs that we had sent him, actually, Nyle and I had sent a couple songs in, and Prince paid us to own the publishing on it. And he paid us a nice chunk. And he didn't make us sign a contract, nothing. And it was that almost like a gift to say, hey, we're not going to be touring, but here, take this. And so I was thankful because, I have a family to feed, and I was thinking, great, no tour, what am I going to do? But he said, you need to be writing. You need to stay at home, put your slippers on, make some cookies, hang with your daughter, and just collect the checks. And that's what he said to me. And he said, I don't really feel like going through the whole sound, sound men, like he was going through them in these big arenas. He was tired of that. He wanted to do something smaller. And he said to me, I'm not going to probably tour as much. And I don't know if he was being honest or if he was just trying to make cut me off and tell me, hey, you're not going to be touring. So he's trying to make me feel better or whatever.
Running game, is that what we say?
But at least he helped me out majorly, and I'll never forget it, and I'll be forever thankful. And then I'd contact him through Twitter every now and then and say hi. And one time I sent him a picture of me and my daughter in our Eagles jerseys because we're Eagles fans, and he said, how about those Eagles? And he's like, you can keep your Eagles. And I'm like, well, I still like the Vikings, but we would tweet back and forth, and I sent him pictures of my daughter's birthday party with all these little girls in it, and having a blast in a limo. And when he landed on that plane that day that happened, I tweeted him an inbox message, and I said, hey, I just want to check on you, make sure you're okay. Please let me know. And he said, save your prayers. Perfect. Save your prayers, controversy. And I was like, what the heck does that mean?
Hashtag controversy.
Hashtag controversy. So I was like, what the heck does that mean? So I just said, well, I'm a mom and I'm worried about you. Make sure you're eating and sleeping and, taking care of yourself. And that's the last that was on the 15th of April. And then he passed. And so it was just a rough week, as everybody, I'm sure, felt the same way.
Hey, could I jump in here? And then, after he passed, bring us back to this I Wish You Heaven project. Is after he passed, I'm sure, like everyone here, I'm sure we're all big fans. I literally kind of just languished, really, in confusion. I would say it took me at least a couple of weeks to sort of snap out of kind of a mini depression. And I've never felt like that about any but a person that I did not know. So that's a testament to how powerful his influence was on me as a musician and, as a human being. So then I thought, well, what could I do? What could I do? And then as time went on, just a few months after that, I called Lisa and said, hey, we should do this thing where we get a bunch of artists to do covers and this will be our way of paying respects and feeling some kind of closure. And that's sort of the inception of it. And I'm so glad Cassandra's a part of it. I'm so glad Kevin's a part of it, because I'm not just saying it because they're on the phone. Those are two of my favorite of the 15.
And Darren Hayes his is great too. Oh my God.
Yeah, Darren Hayes from Savage Garden. He's on it. It's mostly independent artists, but there's a few cats on here, MPG members, Kevin, people who've had deals and have been out there and stuff. But bottom line is everyone did it for the love of Prince. And I have a handful of favorites, and both of theirs are in it. And just so happy that everyone was a part of this. It's cool. And hopefully it's one of those things, you put it on YouTube, as long as we don't get muted or shut down or anything like that. It's one of those things I can feel like, well, this will be up there as long as the internet's around and people are around. People might be enjoying these covers 30 years from now.
Let me ask you this. So just to be clear, so for the fans, we can get this on YouTube starting Christmas Day. Is that right?
Yeah, Christmas Day. I might even have it uploaded by Christmas Eve, which is kind of cool. I know a lot of people stay up late on Christmas Eve and kind of hang out and stuff. So that might be the goal. I mean, it'll be on if you go to the I Wish You Heaven Facebook page, we'll have a precise time where it's like, okay, it's now uploaded. You guys can go check out these tracks. You could check them out as a playlist. I'm going to create a playlist of all the tracks, or you could check them out as individual songs, whatever you happen to, vibe on. But stylistically, man, we're all over the place. We have Cassandra's version is like a jazzy, R&B soul jazz take on something in the water. And Kevin's thing is kind of this. Kevin's is pretty epic because he has some classical influence in there. He's got sort of the blues rock thing in there, soul. And then other versions we have in there, we have some laid back, almost country versions of other songs. We have rockabilly vibes. We have a bossa nova version of Kiss that we're calling Kissanova, which is a really, really wonderful thing. The guy who sang it has this kind of Barry Gibb voice. So it to me, it sounds like the Bee Gees doing Prince, which is damn interesting if you can just fathom that for a second. So there's all kinds of styles and stuff, and it's just, man, what a wonderful experience. And now it's being wrapped up and we're getting ready to put it up. So
all right, any plans for, I got to ask these questions, any plans for like a CD or something on iTunes, something?
Well, I guess I'll answer that. Okay, when I was researching the logistics of doing something like that, and then you guys can jump in, Cassandra or Kevin or Elisa, whatever, if you guys know anything different than I do. But it definitely complicates things when you want to sell a song, because then you have to get a mechanical license and you have to pay in advance on the royalties of how many units you think you're initially going to sell. And it just gets a little complicated. And I didn't want to go down that road. And I think that's probably the main reason. And then the other reason is we wanted to make something free, and you can't actually technically have, and I'm on Apple, on iTunes, you can't, Apple can help you give away a song if you want to give away a track or something. But if you're going to have an album up there, I believe that technically you can't have a free album, because that's not the business they're in. Now on Apple Music, you can stream it. So the hopes for right now are, let's see what happens on YouTube. Let's make sure we're safe and that nobody from the Prince estate comes after us, because we're just doing this as fans. And like I was telling Dr. Funkenberry, which I have to give a shout out to Funkenberry, we did a podcast with him.
No doubt.
Is that if anyone's going to make any money on this thing, it's going to be Prince's estate, because once it gets tagged and the algorithms of Google figure out that, Google and YouTube, they figure out that it's a cover song, then streaming royalties. So every time you somebody listens and watches this video, it's going to go to them. So hopefully there's no issues. I mean, Prince's estate, I don't know what they're doing. I know Prince used to take down stuff all the time. We all know that, but hopefully we're safe on there. And I think once we're safe on there, then I'm going to seek to put it on mainly Spotify and maybe Apple Music as far as streaming. Again, not for sale. Now, Cassandra may put it out as a single. She was toying with that idea, and she'll just have to jump through any hoops to make it for sale. And I think it's a great idea because it's definitely single worthy, even for Kevin, if he wanted to put it out as a single. Many people have versions that are single worthy if they wanted to jump through the hoops and then make it for sale. But for right now, no physical CDs, nothing downloadable for sale. You can just enjoy it on YouTube, and then later on Spotify, hopefully.
All right. And who came up with the title for the project?
Well, I'll tell you real quick. So I Wish You Heaven, we all us Prince fans know, was a song on the Love Sexy album. So originally I had a good friend of mine slated to do that song. It is now done by Darren Hayes from Savage Garden, and it's just an amazingly beautiful version. But I had another friend slated to do that song, and I did not have an album. I didn't even have a working title for the album. And we were just kind of hanging out, and we were working on the song. We were kind of going to go for more of a John Lennon-esque version of I Wish You Heaven. And it didn't work out. But my buddy, Paul Gallardi, I'll give him a little shout out. He said, that should be the title of the album. And I just looked at him and I said, God, man, there couldn't be a more appropriate title.
Because we do. We wish Prince heaven, I'll tell you.
All right.
Yeah, one of the most beautiful things you can say to anybody. I wish you heaven. I wish you love. I mean, what he's saying in that song. And I wouldn't be surprised. I think Darren should figure out a way. Darren Hayes from Savage Garden, he should put that out as a single as an artist, because I think he could have a hit with it.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, what we always like to do is to let people know where they can find you and connect with you online. So we'll start with Elisa. Where can they find you online?
Well, I have a website, www.elisafiorillo.com. And then I also have most of the stuff that I've been doing lately is with the Bruce Harper Big Band. So you can go there to www.thebruceharperbigband.com, and you'll see all the shows that we have planned for the coming year. And on Facebook, I answer people back.
All right.
You don't answer me.
Oh, he's putting you on blast.
Oh, right. You're always calling my...
Cassandra, where can they find you at?
Well, CassandraO'Neal.com is down right now, but it will be up within the next month or so. I am also on Yamaha's website. I am a Yamaha artist. You can look at me. I think it's YamahaMusic.com, or just Google it because they change it a lot. Facebook, you can find me there. I do answer people on my fan page and my personal page. Instagram and Periscope, and CASSY, the letter Q, the letter T, KEYS. That's Cassie Cutie Keys. That's Twitter. That's Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram. Also, for those that are going to the NAMM show, look out for me there. I will be doing tutorials for Yamaha, their keyboard line, the Montage.
Nice.
And so come to Anaheim and say hi. Yeah, come say hello.
All right. Mr. Kevin and Bethany, is that right?
Yes.
We're going to try to get our website up and running again after the new year, but we do have a fan page on Facebook, which is just Kevin and Bethany Paige, Paige.
Yeah, and you can also search on YouTube for Kevin and Bethany Paige Prince Tribute, which we did a really 2-hour full-length love letter to Prince. It took 4 months of rehearsing and assembling. Nobody's going to jump around and lace bottoms with, but the music is done with so much love and so much respect for those records. So we hope you check that out.
All right. And Mr. Nyle, where can they find you on?
Well, Elisa and I are the administrators of the I Wish You Heaven page. So if you want to reach us through the I Wish You Heaven page, well, definitely go like it. And then there's a message button there. You can reach us there. And then I also have a Nyle Girgis Facebook page. You know, that's the simplest way. It's quick and easy. I have a personal musical project too. So if you see that name on Starfish and Coffee, I sent you that track. So Nyle Quit the Band. That's the name of my project as an artist and as a producer. So you could find Nyle Quit the Band on all the common places, Twitter and Facebook and so forth. Last but not least, Michael, I know you know Aisha Staggers, and I think you interviewed her, the journalist Aisha Staggers. I want to give her a special shout out because she's going to do a follow-up article. She did an initial article on this project several months ago for the Huffington Post and interviewed Elisa and I. And she's going to do an article. She's working on it right now. I don't know when it's going to be posted, but Aisha came really out of the blue, heaven sent again, like all the artists. And she just said, hey, how can I help? And I said, well, what do you do? And she said, I'm a journalist, and gave me her credentials and stuff. And I said, well, we'd love to have you on board. And she's been like super, super gracious and just spending her time and helping us promote this thing. So it's kind of neat how the project took on a life of its own. And my hopes is that people just love it and share it and just get to just a further, I guess, an extension of the legacy of Prince, because that's all this is. Like what we were talking about earlier, before we even started recording, Michael, is that nobody can do these songs like Prince. Prince is the one and only,
right?
And he did his thing, and we're just humbly doing our covers of his music, not trying to be him, not trying to say, hey, look at us or whatever. We're just doing our thing humbly. And it's an extension of his legacy. You know, he loved cover songs like we were talking about earlier. He did them all the time. So anyway, that's where you can find us. Special thanks to Aisha. And thank you, Michael, again for having us. Appreciate the support and the promotion.
Can I say one thing?
Of course.
Okay,
yeah.
Just one thing, quick thing. On Starfish and Coffee, my daughter got to sing backgrounds because in the version that Nyle produced, we kind of did a little homage to the time that he was on the Muppets, and they did those cool backgrounds. Mm-hmm. And so we had my daughter and myself doing yes, and they singing oh, everybody now.
Yeah.
So
right.
That, and
yeah.
And I found a cassette tape that I had from back in the day, in the 90s, when I met Prince the first time around, that he had left a message on my answering machine. And I just thought it was the funniest message ever. So I taped it, and I had it, and I found it after he passed up in all of my cassettes. I was like, that. So I went and got all my cassettes down, and I looked through every single one of them, and I found it. And what it was he called me from Japan saying he was coming, this way, and he wanted to see if I was going to stay in LA so we could get together. And on the message, he goes, mushy, mushy, hello, hello. And then he bangs the phone, and then he goes, goodbye. And that's it. So It's his voice. It's him. Nobody has this tape. And I found it, and it's a gem. And so that's probably going to be the last song on in the order of the compilation, because his voice, it'll be the last thing that you hear. And so I wanted to share that because it was a personal thing, but it was so funny and so cute. I thought I gotta let everybody hear it because it's too cute.
Yeah, and I can't wait, Elisa, until somebody samples that and does like a super electronic mix or some kind of hip hop track with his voice. Somebody's gonna sample it. There was a hit like 15 years ago where somebody did that with Madonna, had left a message on somebody's answering machine.
Oh, really?
It was sampled and turned into like a hit song. Somebody's going to sample Prince at the end. It was really cute. It's just so perfect at the end of Starfish. It's great.
And then my daughter laughs at the end, and it's so cute.
So what's your daughter's name?
Olivia.
Olivia. How old is she?
She's going to be 12 next month.
Oh, Early teenagers.
Oh my gosh, time flies.
And you remember, were you there on that 4th of July? We were on the roof at Paisley watching the fireworks, Cassie? And he was just growing out his afro.
I believe so, yes.
And my daughter was there.
Yes.
And she went up to him and said, up high. And he hit her hand. And then she went down low. He hit her hand. And then she went, I like your afro. With her little it was the cutest. He cracked up so hard. He loved my daughter. So
they were buddies, man. He played her Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, right?
Yeah, she sang. He played the guitar and she sang. She played up in the playroom before he tore that down. So, and then she made him a cute little picture of coloring of a house. And the day that she handed it to him, he had one of the texts at 11 o'clock at night. He said, you better have this framed and in my office tomorrow morning. And sure enough, they found a frame and he had it hanging in his office. So
that's cool.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
All right. Incredible stuff. Let me tell all of you guys, thank you for coming on and sharing. That's the big thing.
Thank you.
We really appreciate hearing your stories.
Thank you.
And experiences.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you already know what to do. Go on. We're gonna have the link on there. So Christmas, it's a celebration. It's a Christmas gift. It's a tribute to Prince, his greatness, and it's from some people who got to work with him, and some incredible musicians as well. So we're gonna be listening and we're checking it out. And again, it's coming from a good place. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you already know what I'm about to tell you what to do. Work it like a job. We'll have another show before the end of the year, but if I do not talk to you, please be blessed. You're alive, so you have an opportunity to do things, but be a blessing to somebody else. Serve. That's what I'm pushing forward for next year. We got to serve. So with that, we'll see you next time. Peace.
This is what she'd say.
All right.
Stop pushing coffee, maple syrup and jam.